Welcome to Midnight Mule FPL. I'm Midnight Mule and this is the video for Game Week 32 where we look at the popular players, and the reason we do that is it's the popular players that do well that you do not own that are going to hurt your rank. A player that is lowly owned that does well really doesn't matter. So if you only have popular players and you have the right ones, you should easily finish in the top 5%. But before we look at the players, I'm going to quickly go through some potential chip strategies. Obviously, I've got no idea what chips you've got left, and I've seen a lot of people posting this is what to do with your chip strategy, and I don't completely agree with all of them. So here are some alternate views, but obviously, as with everything I ever say, you do whatever you like. There are 7 game weeks left, and there are 5 teams of interest. That's Newcastle, Arsenal, Villa, Palace and Man City. Newcastle have got 2 nice home fixtures this game week against United and Palace. Palace have 2 difficult away fixtures to Man City and Newcastle. Next game week, Arsenal, Villa, Palace and Man City have all got a double. Game week 34 though, they all blank. In game week 35, they all have nice home fixtures. So those 4 teams are particularly interesting to us. And in game week 34, when they blank, Newcastle have a nice home fixture of Ipswich. And then the remaining 3 game weeks, those last 4 teams that all blank in 34 and double in 33 have basically got nice fixtures, except Arsenal are away to Liverpool one time and Palace are away to Liverpool last day of the season. Now regarding the chips, there are 5 chips you may have left to play, and I disagree, I think, with the order of the importance that I've seen people say online about the chips. For me, the wildcard is the most important chip, then it would be the free hit, then the bench boost, then the assistant manager, and then the triple captain. And in case you're wondering, I've made the assistant manager longer because it spans 3 game weeks. Now, the reason I think this is the order of importance is the wildcard probably gives you 7 improved players. So let's say there's 15 players in your team. You can easily get to a point in the season where half the team, you just want to switch them out. So wildcard is kind of like 7 improved players and you get to keep them. Whereas the free hit is 12 different players for 1 week, but it means you can have 1 very good week at least. The bench boost gives you 4 extra players, and the assistant manager gives you 3 extra players, albeit those players are managers, but they take budget out of your main team. And I know people are getting very excited because, Glasner might get 19, 20 points, and different managers have been getting some very high scores, but also some managers have been getting 0. So a few game weeks ago, people had the assistant manager chip on Arteta because it should have been an easy game, and he lost to 0, so he got 0 points. Whereas with the bench boost, where you have 4 players on the bench, you're unlucky if a player doesn't get at least 2 points. So a bench boost should get you at least 8 points. An assistant manager can get you 0 points. It's almost impossible unless you try to get 0 points with a bench boost. Now, the assistant manager does have a very high upside if you get lucky, you get all your guesses right. But I think it's a bit of a problem. So the assistant manager for me is the least important. And then finally, the triple captain only gets you 1 extra player. Now, you may be saying, but if you're playing a double game week, it's different. Yeah, if you get the assistant manager across 2 doubles, that's like 5 extra players. But a bench boost in double could be 8 extra players. A wildcard in a double could be effectively 14 extra players. So that's the order I'm working with because that's what I think the order should be. So going back to our game weeks left, if you have all 5 chips left, I think the obvious order to do them is you obviously free hit in game week 34, then you'd wildcard in 33, and you'd set up such that you can bench boost in 35. You'd triple captain in 32, and that would be on Isaac, and then you put the assistant manager in the last 3 game weeks. There may be double games in 36, but we don't know for sure yet. But in any case, you just stick the assistant manager on the end and pick up some points. Now, if you have no free hit, and I know about maybe a quarter of managers, maybe a bit less than that, have used their free hit, that game week 34 now becomes a bit more tricky. So if you have no free hit, one possible solution is you'd wildcard in game week 33, but you don't go crazy bringing in loads of doublers, and you have maybe 5 players that are doubling, which means in game week 34, you can sell one of them and then you can still get 11 players out for the blank. And although there are 4 teams doubling in Game Week 33, they're not all great, and it would be okay to just have 5 decent doublers, I think. You'd be all right. And then you could bench boost in 35, because in 33 you're setting up for 35, and 34 you can survive all right. And then you can triple captain, again probably Isaac this coming game week, and stick the assistant manager on the end. You could also wildcard in 34 instead of 33. If your current team looks nice and you're happy enough with what you'd get in 33, then wildcard 34 works, but it means you've got no Arsenal, Villa, Palace or Man City. Or if you have, you've got up to 4 of those. But that can still work all right. And another option, if you have no free hit, is you wildcard this coming game week in 32 and bench boost in 33. But again, you could make it work such that you're okay for 34 and you may be 1 or 2 players down to optimize 32 and 33. Let's say you only get 8 or 9 players out in 34, but you then triple captain Isaac in 34 at home to Ipswich. He could well do all right. And then assistant manager again somewhere on the end. Now that may not be quite as good as the previous 2 I've said, but it does depend what your team is at the moment. But the point is, you can totally survive Game Week 34 without your free hit. It's completely viable and you don't necessarily need to be taking hits. Now, if you've got no free hit and no assistant manager, that just means you can put your triple captain maybe in Game Week 36 where there may be doubles if you're doing this strategy. If you've got no wild card, then you free hit in Game 34 and having no wild card's not a big issue. You're kind of all right. In which case you'd triple captain 32 because that's probably the best game week to do it. And then you can bench boost anywhere you want to. It may be game week 33 is the best, but you want to bench boost when you have a bench of 4 playing players. And then you could bang assistant manager on the end if you still got it. If you got no wild card and no free hit, this is obviously very difficult now what you can do about 34. You still triple captain 32. You may want to bench boost in 33, but that could be going anywhere, and then assistant manager on the end. And you just need to accept you may be a couple of players down in 34, and you may not have as many doublers in 33 as you'd maybe want, but there are plenty of single game week players in 33 that have got good fixtures, so you don't need to worry about it. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Feel free to leave anything in the comments regarding your team and what I think you should do with your remaining chips. If you're unsure, you want help. You should probably leave your team ID though, because it'd be a lot easier for me to see your team. But if you just want to list your players, that's all right as well. We're now going to look at the currently popular players for Game Week 32, plus the players that have been popular in the past that you may still have in your team, because we still need to decide where we're going to put them regarding benching order, etc. Now, there are some very good players that I'm not talking about now, but that's because their ownership is not high enough. So if they do well, it shouldn't be hurting your rank too bad. For example, Barnes. Barnes could get 2 hat-tricks, that's 6 goals, but he's very, very low owned. He's not in the system. And if he does get 30, 40 points, he's really not going to hurt your rank because nobody owns him. Next to nobody owns him. Right, we're going to start by looking at how the players did that are in the system in Game Week 31. So Pope got 6, Flecken 10. For the defenders, Livramento 11, Gvardiol 9, Muniz 8, Burns 6. Williams 4, Mazraoui 7. For the midfielders, Murphy 16, Rogers 9. Well done if you had those 2. They're both nice and cheap. Eze 9, Bowen 7, Semenyo 6. Luis Diaz 6. Now he's very interesting. I know someone who is religiously following the system. They've kept Luis Diaz and he's just been ticking over getting some nice points, but he is quite expensive. Mateta 8, and then that's all for the forwards. So we're now going to look at the players that are in the system for Game Week 32, and for each player I bring up, I'll be having a number in red, and that's a negative number, and that's how many points they count against you if this player got 6 points. So Raya, for example, if he scores 6 points this game week and he's not in your team, I'm saying that's probably going to be like you getting minus 2.6 points. So that's how much he's going to hurt you. And for each position, the players that I show you first, I think are probably the most important players in the upcoming game weeks. So if you're wildcarding this game week, I think Raya's a pretty good keeper to get home to Brentford this game week, then he doubles, and then he blanks, but you'll have a second keeper or you'll be free hitting. Sales, a very good keeper. They've lost Aina at the moment, so they have let in a couple of goals recently, but still very good. Fixtures are okay, but no double game weeks. So if you can get a double game week keeper in the next week or two, it's worth having. So Henderson, he's got 2 double game weeks, but there's a reasonable chance he's not going to keep any clean sheets in those 4 games. So it's feasible Sales will outscore him. It's very likely Raya will outscore him. And Pope's the next most important. He's probably going to outscore Henderson as well, even though he's got 1 fewer games. But Pope at 0.6, I'm guessing around 10% ownership around your rank. He's not going to hurt you if you don't own him. And of all the positions, the keeper really is the least important, in as much as it's the position that's going to hurt you the most if you don't own the player that does well. And then we have Martinez as well. He's got a double game week next game week, and this coming game week away to Southampton. So there's a chance of some decent points there. But if I was wildcarding, I would almost certainly choose Raya. If money was a bit tighter, I'd probably go Pope as my main keeper. And now the less important keepers, and none of these are going to hurt you at all if they do well. Pickford's massively dropping in popularity. 3 difficult fixtures coming up. But then after that, the end of the season, Everton's run is quite nice. So if you're wildcarding and you can afford it, you may want him for your second keeper. And then Flecken, absolutely not worth having, but has been popular. Areola's popular because he's only 4.2 and he's a playing goalkeeper. So if he was your second keeper, that would be all right. So a lot of managers would be having him as the second keeper. And then when they're bench boosting next game week, he's at home to Southampton, could be getting something nice there. And then Ward's just bench for a 3.9. He's never going to play, save you some money. We're taking Becker out of the system because of his concussion. We don't know if he's playing this game week or not, but it's not worth having him because he's 5.6 million, no double game weeks coming up. So absolutely not worth having. If you've got Becker, you want to keep him, that's fine. But after this game week, I'll not be reporting on him. And then Fabianski, that could be any 4 million keeper that just sits on your bench, doesn't play. So defenders, Munoz is the most important defender at the moment. Personally, I think there's a reasonably high chance he won't get any clean sheets the next 2 games in this double game week. It's quite feasible he won't get an attacking return. So after this double game week, he may come away with 4 points, maybe 5. However, he's going to be so highly owned. If he does well and you don't own him, that's going to really hurt your rank. So if you possibly can get him, he's worth getting. The only reason not to is if you already have 3 Palace players that you're happy with, in which case it's not worth making 2 transfers to get him in. And then Gvardiol, he's been getting some decent points recently. He's quite popular. More than half the managers around your rank are going to own him. So if he does well and you don't own him, he's going to hurt your rank. These 2 are comfortably the 2 most important defenders at the moment. And then we have Saliba growing in popularity. He's around about a third owned, I'm guessing around your rank level. But next game week, he's going to be massively owned for the double against Ipswich and Palace. So if you're wildcarding this game week, you probably want those 3 defenders. Then Livramento, he's growing in popularity, of course, because he's got a double game week this game week. But after this coming game week, unless he does something amazing, people are going to be gradually selling him probably. So he's a very good defender this game week to have, but you don't have to go crazy to try and get him in. And then Burn, also Newcastle defender, similar price. The reason Livramento is more popular than Burn probably is because he got a couple of assists last game, so he's fresh in everyone's memory. And then Milenkovic, good defender, playing for Forest, but there's no double game weeks, so hardly anyone's going to be bringing him in. No need to sell him, but you can move him on if you want to. And then Kirkes, again, he's a good player. He's got some good attacking returns recently. Home to Fulham, that's quite nice, but no one's going to be bringing him in. He was very popular. His popularity is going down quite quickly, and I don't suppose it's going to be coming back up again. So if you've got your free hit, then the top row of defenders would be a very good row of defenders to get, plus 1 other. And other defenders that have been popular but not so much now, Virgil van Dijk, 6.5 million. I think not worth having, even though they may keep some clean sheets because that money could be better used elsewhere. Absolutely don't go buying him. If you've got him, you want to keep him, that's fine. If you want to switch him for Munoz, that makes fine sense this week, I think. Konza away to Southampton this game week, but he could get rested. So even if they keep a clean sheet, we don't know he's going to be getting 6 points for it. And then the double is against Newcastle and Man City, which there's a reasonably high chance that won't be a clean sheet. So he is nice and cheap. Some managers are getting him in so that they've got maybe 15 players doubling next game week. But I probably wouldn't do it. But if you're tight for money, he's a fine one to have. But I definitely wouldn't be taking hits to get in Konza. But he's okay. But he's not going to hurt you. If he does well this game week, he's not going to be hurting you. Neither will Aiton Nori. He won't hurt you, but he's been popular in the past. Konate's nice and cheap rate into the Liverpool defence, but not highly owned, won't hurt you. Williams, nice cheap player to get a good chance of clean sheets and possibly some attacking returns. So he's popular because of his price. And then Robinson was very popular. People aren't going for Fulham players now, so he's absolutely not worth buying. And then even less important defenders were taking Aina out of the system because of his injury. Mazraoui, now he ticks along and he does get clean sheets from time to time, but he's basically bench fodder. Nobody owns him, only 4.2 million. But if you had to have him or you do have him, that's kind of all right because he does sometimes get you points. Harwood Bellis, just bench fodder, 4 million. Mikalenko bench fodder, Greaves bench fodder. We've got a lot of bench fodder here, but at some point in the past this season, all of those have been quite highly owned. And next season, I'll be much better at cleaning out all the deadwood. So for the midfielders, Salah, even though he's been disappointing the last few game weeks, is still the most important midfielder, it seems. He almost certainly won't be the highest scoring midfielder this game week because Liverpool don't double. But he's the one that's going to hurt your rank the most. If all the popular midfielders got 10 points this game week, Salah's the one that's going to hurt you the most if you don't own him. Saka. So don't go buying him. We don't know what his injury status is. He's probably fine, but I wouldn't go buying in this game week. But hopefully he'll play. We'll find out he's fine so we can get him for next game week if you've not already got him. I wouldn't be selling Saka if I had him, but I definitely wouldn't be buying him this game week. Then Murphy got 2 goals last game week. He's got a double this coming game week. Massively popular. So I've got him lower than Saka, but he is going to hurt you a lot more than Saka this game week. But over the next 4 game weeks, Saka would hurt you the most, I think, because the way the ownership's going to be changing. So Salah's going to be highly owned. Murphy's going to be highly owned. And then Sarr seems to be the most highly owned Palace midfielder. But online, there's a lot of sentiment that people would rather have Eze than Sarr. But they bought in Sarr in their wild card 2-3 game weeks ago when Sarr was doing well and not Eze so much. Plus, Sarr is cheaper. But if people were wildcarding this game week, I suspect most of them would be getting Eze over Sarr. Then Palmer also been very disappointing. However, Jackson is now back, which should increase his chances of getting assists or goals. And they're at home to Ipswich this game week. So, personally, I wouldn't be selling Palmer this game week. Now, you may want to sell him if it's going to give you a certain combination of double game week players. But I think he's fine to be keeping at the moment. And then Rodgers is popular, but again, away to Southampton, there's a risk of rotation. He does tend to start every game, but there's always a chance. Villa should be able to beat Southampton just by playing the cleaning ladies and the lady who does the hot dogs. However, they may decide to put a decent team out. And then the second page of midfielders, so Mbeumo is massively dropping in popularity because he's quite expensive, away to Arsenal, and he's got no double game weeks coming up. So he's understandably getting dumped. If he does well, he shouldn't be hurting your rank too badly, but he's a good player. He ticks along nicely. If you've got him and you want to keep him, that's absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong with that. Every season we see people getting carried away with the double game week players, and every season we have a lot of double game week players that disappoint. So Mbeumo is a typical player who's a single game week player but going to outscore a lot of the double game week players. Absolutely wouldn't be buying him this game week though, that's for sure. You can sell him if you want to, but he is a good player. So Eze, there will be regret with a lot of people who wildcarded 2 game weeks ago, like I said, that they bought Sarr and not Eze. Eze's done well the last couple of game weeks. He is a good player to have. But he's going to hurt your rank a bit if you don't own him, but not too much. And I did all these estimates yesterday based on the data I had. Come the weekend, Eze may become much more popular. So Kluivert missed the last game week. His popularity is massively dropping. And at 6.1, a lot of people will be swapping him for maybe somebody like Murphy or Sarr. Murphy or Sarr. So if you got Kluivert, he's absolutely fine to move on. If you want to keep him, you can. But last I heard, we don't know that he'll be playing. And then Fernandes, I've got him now as an okay player. He's nearly a good player, but Man United really aren't great. They're away to Newcastle. They don't have double game weeks coming up. So he's a lot of money, and he's now very lowly owned. So he's not going to hurt your rank, probably at all, if he does well. Bowen's ticking along nicely. A lot of managers are selling him who've got him, though, because he's away to Liverpool, or else he'll simply be on the bench. So Bowen really shouldn't be hurting your rank this week at all. Absolutely wouldn't be bringing Bowen in this game week. After this game week, if you've got him, you may want to keep him because he does keep getting 6-7 points. And then Semenyo's massively dropping in popularity. No point buying him. You don't have to sell him, but there are much better midfielders to have at the moment. Third page in midfielders, these really aren't going to hurt you. Luis Diaz has been very good the last few game weeks. Just ticking along, just getting points. West Ham, Leicester, Tottenham, and then Chelsea. He could absolutely get returns in all of those games. But he's a lot of money. Absolutely don't go buying him. But if you've got him, you don't need to sell him if you've got enough other good players to have. But if you're wildcarding, I see no reason why you'd bring him in. Gordon, don't go buying Gordon. As at the moment, we don't know whether or not he's fit. We don't know if he's going to be playing in the double game week. If he's only played against Palace, he still may do okay. Now, there could be an argument if he's still flagged and we don't know he's playing, he may be worth swapping for Murphy, even if it's for a hit, because obviously if Gordon doesn't play, then Murphy will almost certainly get 4 points more than Gordon. But you could risk keeping him if you want to, and you've got him. Enzo's just bench fodder 4.7 million, but he does sometimes play and do well. He often plays and does all right. Home to Ipswich, may get something there. Odango, absolutely don't go buying him. He's a good player, but he's a minute's risk, probably going to start on the bench. Dibbling, very good player, very bad squad. Wouldn't be surprised if he's in the Premier League next season, though, because Southampton may have to get rid of him. But for now, bench fodder. For the forwards, Isak, by far the most important player this coming game week. Nearly everyone owns him. You're going to want to have him if you haven't got him already. And then Mateta, hugely popular, and also Show Marmouche. These three are highly, highly owned. Most active managers will have at least two of these. Many will have all three of them. If any of these do well and you don't own them, that is going to really hurt your rank. So if you possibly can have these three as your three forwards, you should do. Wood is massively dropping in popularity. He's been injured recently, and 7 million, that's moderately expensive, as in you could use the money elsewhere on midfielders. So he's just massively dropping. No double game weeks coming up. He's fine to get rid of. So Watkins is a good player, and on paper he could do well in the next few game weeks. However, it seems that Rashford's been starting recently, and then Watkins coming on in the second half. Away to Southampton, is Rashford going to get rested and Watkins start? We don't know. And there's a double game week. 8.9 million now. There's no reason to get him. The first three on this page would be the three that you want. Watkins is very lowly owned. If he does well, he's not going to hurt you. So he's absolutely fine to switch out. But having said all that, he is a good player. He might do well. João Pedro's a bit frustrating. I own Pedro and I don't own Mateta. Now, he's at home to Leicester. If I knew Pedro was starting, I think I'd keep Pedro. But if I don't get a good indication that he is, I may have to just swap him out for Mateta. But I do think that a 90-minute Pedro at home to Leicester could comfortably get more points than Mateta away to Man City and away to Newcastle. But João Pedro is not going to hurt my rank if he does well and I don't own him, whereas Mateta is going to really hurt my rank. And then Vissa, perfectly good player, but away to Arsenal, dropping in popularity, no double game weeks coming up. It still stands at the first three on this page are the three that you really want. And the less important forwards, Raul Jimenez, nice and cheap, don't go buying him. Beto nice and cheap, don't go buying him, but in 3 or 4 game weeks time, 4 game weeks time, he may start to be quite popular. Kuna, I think he's actually back now, so I've got him as risky sellable because you might want one of the other 3. He's not going to hurt your rank at all if he does well. None of these will. Gakpo, I'm saying he's such a minute's risk. We're just going to drop him, not reporting him after this game week. Vardy, I really like Vardy. Leicester have been awful recently, but their fixtures are changing shortly. Surely he's going to score eventually, but there's no reason to hold on to him at all. If he scores 1,000,000 points, he's still not going to hurt your rank if you don't own him. And then Cannon represents any 4.5 million forward who just sits on your bench. So we're now going to look at the benching order, starting with the keepers. This is my suggested benching order. You do whatever you like. But if you blindly follow these instructions over the course of the season, I think it'll serve you okay. The way this works is the first player that you see that you've got, I suggest goes on your bench, which means it's your other keeper that plays. So if you've got Fabianski, he's going to be on your bench, as would Ward, because of course they don't even play. Then I'm suggesting Areola away to Liverpool, then Flecken away to Arsenal, Pickford away to Forest, Sales at home to Everton, could be a clean sheet there. Martinez away to Southampton, could be a clean sheet. Now Becker, last I read, we don't know whether or not he's playing. He's out for concussion reasons and have to follow a certain protocol. Obviously Liverpool won't risk him if he's going to be injured, but if he's fit, at home to West Ham, he's absolutely worth having. So even though we're taking him out the system this game week, I'll report on him this one last time, that's where he'd be sitting. Then Rare at home to Brentford. Henson's got a double game week. Not expecting a clean sheet, but he could get 4 points or 6 points in total, which is a bit like a clean sheet. And then Pope has a chance of 2 clean sheets. It may only be 1, could be none. But Pope has a reasonable chance of a good score this game week. Regarding the other players we're going to look at now, the first player you see that I show you, I suggest is position 3 on your bench. Next one, position 2. Last one, position 1. But as always, you do whatever you like. This is just my suggestion. And this is the part of the video that takes me the longest, believe it or not. Not the recording of it, that preparing this and working out what I think the bench order should be. So only 4.5 million forward that doesn't even play. Then Greaves, Dibbling, Mikalenko, Faust, Harwood Bellis, Mazraoui, Dango, Beto, Robinson, Williams, Konza, Aït-Nouri, Konate, Kirkez, Milenkovic, Vardy, Virgil van Dijk, Semenyo and Bowen. And then we have Enzo, Vissa, Mbeumo, Raul Jimenez, Chris Wood, Cunha, João Pedro, Fernandes, Saliba, Gvardiol, Kluivert, Luis Diaz, Rogers, Saka, Watkins, Salah, Marmoush, Byrne, Livramento, Munoz, and finally Gordon. If you kept hold of Gordon, you kind of have to play him. And then regarding captaincy, Isak is going to be captained by nearly 100% of active managers. Nearly all active managers are going to own him unless he gets red flagged on Friday, Saturday morning. Nearly all managers are going to be captaining him. Most managers who have still got their triple captain chip will be triple captaining him this game week. So if you have your triple captain chip still and you're not wildcarding this game week or bench boosting, absolutely put it on Isak, I would say. He may come away with 4 points. But I think there'll be enough people triple captaining him that those of us that are just normal captaining him, we're going to get negative points if he does well because there'll be so many triple captainers out there. But anyway, Isak's a very good choice. But if you don't want to go for Isak, Mateta is also a good choice, as is Eze, as is Sarr, as is Murphy. And if you want a single game week player, maybe this is the game week where Palmer's going to come good again. So any of these is your captain, any is your vice captain. I normally say don't pick 2 from the same team in case the game gets postponed. However, because it's a double game week, that doesn't apply. So any 2 of these. If you don't want to choose 2 of these or you can't, then any of the green midfielders or forwards on the previous page would also be all right. But Isak, by a long way, for safety point of view, even though he might not be the highest scorer, he is the safest pick. As for the background picture, I asked Grok today, tell me some good news that happened somewhere in the world. And apparently in Mexico, the monarch butterfly population has been growing recently, and that's a good thing. So there we have it, my thoughts on the chip strategy and the popular players for Game Week 32. There's lots of points up for grabs. There's going to be some surprise double game week flops. There's going to be some surprise single game week superstars. It's all good fun. I hope you have a good weekend. Thanks. Bye.